Welcome back to Talking Devils podcast, brought to you by talktodevils.co.uk, your number one independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Keane. It's a bit different today. Usually we do these podcasts on a Friday, but today we're actually going to do the pre-match show here today. And so I'm joined by former Manchester United player Phil Marsh. We're here today to discuss Manchester United versus Southampton in the Premier League. Away at St. Mary's, usually a hard place to go for Man United, so we will be discussing that here today. We'll be discussing the lineups. We're gonna briefly reflect on the Liverpool game as well, because obviously it's the first time myself and Phil have spoke since the Liverpool game. So we're gonna chat about that as well. And also, does Casemiro make his debut? We'll talk about Anthony Martial also being injured again. And look, whatever questions or comments you guys have on Facebook or YouTube, we will get to them as well. So don't forget, guys, to smash like on the video and also subscribe to the channel as well. But Phil, how's your week been? It's the first show in a long time we're coming on and we're actually feeling really good and really positive about our results. How's your week been kind of basking in the result of Monday night?
Yeah, it's been a great week. Obviously, after the results against Liverpool, it's been a long time coming that we've seen a result like that and sort of a performance like that. I think the performance was brilliant. Just sort of seeing the team work hard and have that desire to want to win a game of football was brilliant to see. And obviously we played some great stuff as well, scored some really good goals. And yeah, just hoping that we can carry that on now. I think the players have set the bar. That's the sort of standards that we should be setting on a weekly basis, really. So if the players can continue to play like that from now until the end of the season, and then just show that commitment and that desire and the work rate that they showed the other night, I think we won't be, we won't go far wrong.
It's the work rate. I think the team set the tone from the first minute of the game. Like Lisandro Martinez, busting Mo Salah in that first kind of challenge. For me, that really set the tone in terms of how the game could have went. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the fact that they got the crowd up early, they committed to tackles, they ran the extra yards. And I don't know, is it the case, the fact is that Derby, they done that? I think that's obviously a massive factor. But it was just great to see kind of, I'm not going to say like United of old because it's nowhere near that, but it was almost like, the players actually cared. They made that tackle. They got the crowd up. They showed commitment. And it's not something that we've seen in a long time. Like, I know I alluded to it the other night on the reaction that it was almost like, the first half an hour against Palace under Rangnick when we pressed and we really worked hard that day. But it was a very welcome surprise, because I think when we were on the pod there last Friday, like we were both saying we won't lose, but we weren't overly confident that we'd go out and get a result out of the game. But we were expecting a better performance, but maybe not to the extent that we actually see Monday. So it was a welcome surprise.
No, 100%. And as I say, I think from a fan's point of view, that game the other day was a brilliant surprise, as you say, because we haven't been used to the players as a complete unit putting the work rate in and sort of that desire and attitude and, running hard and doing all the sort of dirty side of the game that you need to do in order to win a game of football. I think the performance levels over the last couple of seasons have obviously been up and down from certain players, which is, understandable. But the one thing that you should never sort of have to question and that you should always do as a footballer is, work your socks off, do your best in terms of, making tackles, putting, your body on the line, making sure you win your individual battles. And I think the other day from 1 to 11, that was a far better sort of collective performance, which we're going to need. And I think obviously that's just the first game that we've seen the players play like that now this season. They need to just continue in that same vein, and they can't let that slip. Whether it be Southampton, Liverpool, Man City, whoever it is, you've got to do that every single week, because every team in the Premier League's a good team, and if you don't have your sort of A game, then we've seen it sort of that you can get beat by anybody. So I think that's obviously something now we need to take forward and make sure that all the players are on board with, the way that we want to play. Obviously, we've got, some new players that are going to be possibly coming into the team today. who I think will add a little bit more quality. So for me, it's just about now carrying that on and making sure that the sort of minimum requirement is the work rate and the effort.
Do you think, like, after the Brentford defeat, obviously Eric Ten Hag, seen that Man United ran 13k less than Brentford on that day, and consequently after the game, Eric Ten Hag made the players run that extra 13k the day after, and Ten Hag done it with him as well. Like, Ten Hag took accountability for that also. Do you think, like, the manager showing that accountability himself, along with kind of punishing the players at the same time, that the players kind of, I suppose, rose to that and actually, got on the manager's side, and the fact they're all singing on the same hymn sheet Monday night?
Yeah, as I say, I think obviously the Brentford game was a massive disappointment, and it was, a case of everything went wrong really in terms of, the performance, the goals we conceded, the work rate wasn't there. The managers obviously felt like he's maybe got the team selection wrong, and I think as a whole sort of unit, they've rectified that by going in the next day. They've ran the extra yards that they didn't do on the game. I think Ten Hag's involved himself in that, which is good to see because, as I say, we are a football team. We're all in it together. And I think that'll obviously go a long way with the players when the manager's sort of doing that and, showing that he's taking accountability as well for that result. They'll have obviously spoken about, the things that they didn't do very well, which was quite a lot in that Brentford game. And thankfully, they sort of bounced back and put a lot of them things right against Liverpool, which was great to see. So as I say, they've set the bar now, and that's the level that they should be playing at week in, week out, and that's what we're going to need today against Southampton, because it's obviously a tough place to go, and they're going to be up for it. United need to make sure they follow that result up with another 3 points today, otherwise it'll have been for nothing really. Because as I say, these are the games, the teams we should be beating, where we've sort of slipped up far too many times in previous seasons. So we need to start making sure that we take full sort of 3 points against these teams and give ourselves a chance of getting in that top four, which is going to be tough this year because there's a lot of good teams. But if we can carry on and play like we did the other day against Liverpool for the remainder of the season, and we can keep people fit, then I don't see why we can't be in and around that.
Yeah, and I think today is very important, because I think we can't go out there and get the 3 points and then it almost be in vain. We got that performance against Liverpool and we got the points, we got the bragging rights. That's all well and good. I think we need to obviously sustain that performance. This performance needs to be on point again from the first minute. The players need to be going into challenges. They need to be up for it. Obviously, like, look, St. Mary's is always kind of hopping when Man United come to town, like every stadium is. Obviously, our away fans, we all know, like, they'll be up for from minute one. They always are. We have the best away support in the country. So, like, these players do have to show. And I think, look, maybe, I know we'll talk about Casemiro more in a minute, but maybe him coming into the midfield may help add to that bit of steel that we're going to need in midfield in this type of game. But when you look at, obviously, the performances of Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford in particular, because they've massively struggled in the first two games, and especially Sancho, like, it's very uncharacteristic of him kind of losing the ball and not making good decisions, and also Rashford, like, beating that first man. He didn't do that at all in the first two games, but we've seen a contrast in performance from them two. Do you think now, like, that Liverpool game can be like a springboard for them too, considering the fact that they haven't had the best kind of 12 months really in terms of form?
Yeah, well, you'd hope so. As I said, I think them two in particular have sort of struggled and sort of not found the form that we was all expecting and hoping for. But, the way they played the other night was fantastic, and we're all hoping that that's like a catalyst now to them to kick on and sort of to provide that level of performance and work rate on a consistent basis, which, if they do that, then there's no reason why them two players can't be, two of the best sort of attackers in the Premier League, because we all know what ability they've got on the day. They've shown sort of glimpses of that sort of the other day against Liverpool. So we just want to see more of that. And as I say, I always say, Keane, like, obviously when you're playing and you're going through dips in form, which it happens, all the best players in the world go through dips in form. But when you're not working hard and you're not sort of doing the basics, it looks even worse. So when the likes of Rashford haven't been playing well in the last sort of 6-12 months, and they haven't even been working back, and the body language didn't look right. It sort of compounded how bad it looked that they was playing. Whereas, even now they're not going to be perfect in every single game, but if they can do the work rate, closing people down, getting stuck in, making themselves an option all the time, trying to be positive, then I think the fans, will still, keep encouraging them, and they will sort of come out the other side of that. And I'm hoping the Liverpool game the other day was obviously a massive victory and a massive sort of performance from both them. So, we should be seeing a sort of flourish from them too. So hopefully after that, I mean, if you can't, enjoy that game and enjoy that result and the way they played, then, they're probably in the wrong game.
Yeah, definitely. If you can't bounce from that and then not enjoy that result, you're at the wrong football club. So they're obviously our biggest rivals. And look, I think in that type of game, you're always going to run that extra yard. You're going to put in that extra challenge. And like at any level, if you're playing against your biggest rivals, like look, mentally you're going to be more offered than, let's say, you're playing a team from like the bottom of the league. Even though technically speaking, we were bottom of the league at the start of that game. But yeah, like I understand what you're saying. It is something now that needs to improve. They need to be more consistent. I think, especially.
I think just on that, I think obviously, that sort of spreads throughout the full team. When you're playing obviously against like a Man City or a Liverpool, I think naturally you are up for that game just because of who it is, and obviously it's a massive game for the club in terms of the rivalry and stuff like that. I think Man United need to get into a habit of, obviously you're going to get up for that game slightly more than you would do for other games, but every single game in the Premier League and every single game for Man United should be classed as a big game. And you need to go into that game with that mentality of still going to run harder than my opponent. I'm still going to win the individual battle. I'm still going to do the things that I know I can do. And I'm still going to work my socks off to try and get a result for my team and help my teammates. And I think sometimes some of the players look like they've slipped into a sort of comfort zone, or because it's maybe a Southampton or it's a Brighton or it's a, whoever, they're not really giving it the full 100% attention to detail where you need to do that regardless of who we're playing, because I think that's why certain results have sort of gone the way they have done, because we've had far too many players who's not sort of switched on from minute one, and we've been caught out, and it's sort of then too late to sort of rectify it and get yourself back into the game.
Yeah, and I think with that as well, I think we've seen in the last kind of 3 or 4 years, after a big performance, the players kind of rest on their laurels and think, look, that's fine, we've done our job. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that needs to be cut out. And I think we've the right type of manager in the job right now who will help cut that out. Because I think, look, as much as I love Solskjaer, and like I always will love Solskjaer as a player, and even as a manager when he's at the football club, I could see what he was doing. One thing after a big win, we never went on and capitalized after it. I know, like, look, if you look at his first 10 games as interim manager, we had a good few big wins in that. But if you look at the rest of the big wins we had under him, like PSG, beating Man City, in the Premier League twice, beating Spurs, beating Chelsea, we'd always lose or draw after that. We'd never actually, go ahead and really capitalize and we'd always kind of rest on our laurels. I think with this type of manager, the players aren't going to be allowed to do that, because Ten Hag is just like very attention to detail. He's very, like, I'll not say hard on the players, but he's a disciplinarian. Like, he's not going to leave the players not work hard, because if they don't work hard, they'll be out of the team. It's simple as that. We've seen him with the way he was at Ajax. I think that type of character manager is what we need for these type of players, just to not rest on our laurels, because if not, they'll be out of the team.
Yeah, and I think you need to drill that into the players, because obviously when I go back to my time at the club under Sir Alex Ferguson, obviously a lot of the victories was sort of down to him, but the dressing room and the characters that they had in that changing room was, even after a win, the thought would be gone. That's gone, and straight on to the next one. Right, who we playing next? We need to win that game. And obviously, when you've got big characters in the dressing room who are relentless and absolutely win at all costs, then it makes the manager's job far easier. Whereas I think obviously over the last 6 years, especially with certain managers, certain players haven't had that mentality and haven't had that sort of drive that you need to sort of be successful for a long period of time and over the course of a full season. So hopefully Ten Hag can bring in a few bigger characters who've got that, like Casemiro, who's been, winning trophies left, right and centre at Real Madrid. And that can rub off on some of the other players, because once you get a taste of winning trophies, like the team when I was there did, it sort of, it spirals, and it sort of, carries on for a long time, which is what we want to see, and that's what Man United need to be doing. That's a club which is renowned for winning trophies. We've not pulled it off sort of in the last 10, 15 years. So we need to make sure that gets back to where we are, and I'm sure Ten Hag will be looking at addressing that and bringing people into the squad who can sort of help with that issue that we've had.
I think mentality is the biggest thing that we have to look at, because I think for a long time the mentality in the dressing room has been all too wrong. It's been too soft at times, and I think they need to kind of really reinstill that into the players, make these players, be mentality monsters. And I hate that. Like, I hate the phrase because it's thrown around a lot, but that's where you need to be in this league, because this league is the best league in the world. It's ruthless, and especially this era of football right now. Not just in the Premier League, but in Europe, you need to be at it in every single game, whether it's the Premier League, Champions League, or Europa League. You need to be at it, because, like, if you don't work hard, you don't press in this game, you're at nothing, because eventually teams will find you out. And when they sit back and you lack that creativity, you lack that ambition, that drive, you're going to be found out. And we've seen that too many times recently.
Yeah, 100%. As I say, that's what we've struggled with over a long period of time, really, in terms of being able to back that next result up and that next result. I think we've shown glimpses of great performances and sort of good results, but not been able to do it over a longer period of time, which is inevitably why you win trophies over the course of a season, and we've fell short on that for numerous amount of years now under different managers and different players and what have you. So we're hoping now that we can bring in a culture to the club of the winning mentality, bringing players in who will have that depth and that mindset of wanting to win trophies, and hopefully that's where we're sort of heading. It's not going to be obviously an overnight fix. He's not going to be able to bring instant success. So fans need to be patient and give him an opportunity and a chance to put his ideas into the club, and we're hoping that this season we can sort of show a vast improvement on the pitch, and then obviously off the pitch, all the stuff surrounding the Glazers and stuff. If that also gets resolved, then the club will be in a far better place then to move forward and sort of achieve what we know the club can achieve.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think with regards to the ownership situation, obviously the protests are still happening. The protests are getting attention, and look, with Jim Ratcliffe and other prospective people wanting to buy the club. Now, I think, again, like we said last week, I think it's going to be a long time before I think we see that happen. It's not going to be a short-term thing. It will take time for this deal to be negotiated. The Glazers haven't picked up the phone and even went into negotiations yet. I think with them, they're probably waiting to see how this season goes, I'd say, by the looks of things, because if they don't get Champions League football this season, whether it's through Europa League or Champions League, I think they may walk away, because the share price is going to drop quite significantly. You look at the Adidas deal, as I said last week, that's going to drop. And then you have to look at as well, like, all the mentality around the football club. The protests will ramp up. If they don't sell up, it's going to get worse. And the thing about it is, you have to look at it with the respect that not only are the protests going to happen in the UK at games, I think there's their own entities like Tampa Bay Buccaneers and all their little businesses have been targeted online as well. So I think, like, if the Glazers are looking at this season, I think this season is the right time to sell up. I think look, the right time to sell up was when they bought it in the first place. We never wanted them at the club anyway. But I think if you look at the position that they're in financially to sell the club, I think now is the right time. Because look, let's say this season it hits the fan and we don't be successful, it is going to hit the club. It's going to hit the club hard. There's no coincidence when Richard Arnold was talking to the fans a couple of months ago in the pub that time. They said the money is there to spend this summer, but it won't be next summer. There's no coincidence that that's happening, because with the sponsorship deals ending, TeamViewer pulling out, Adidas pulling out. Well, they could potentially pull out if Champions League is not achieved this season. Like, you're really looking at this club really going downhill, really hitting in the pits. And I think that's where the Glazers now, I think that's why they're panicking now, buying Casemiro, buying Anthony. Well, Anthony's not there yet, but you'd like to think by Thursday that deal is going to be done. 100 million for me, in my opinion, is too much for him, but that shows the panic of the Glazers at this moment in time, that they know that they've mismanaged it for so long. And in this time of mismanagement, this football club's fell. You have 5, 6, 7 different rivals at the moment just to get into the top four. Never mind winning the league, just getting into the top four itself. So I think this club is in danger of really spiraling even lower than it already is at the minute.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as you say there, I think obviously Ajax are in a position there where they know Man United are desperate, so they're going to just hold out and try and get as much money as they can. Because as you say, if we don't finish in the top four this year, it's going to be catastrophic in terms of the financial situation. So again, it's the flapping and trying to sort of get deals over the line in order to try to sort of rally and try and finish in the top four. But I think obviously in the bigger picture, United just need to, if they can get a couple more signings in now, that's great. If not, obviously they should have enough this season in terms of, I think other than a striker, we probably could do with another striker, just because obviously Ronaldo's future's uncertain, Martial's, injury prone. If Rashford gets injured, we're going to sort of struggle and maybe have to give one of the younger lads an opportunity. But other than that, I think all over the park, we've got good competition now. I think Malacia did really well the other day.
Fantastic.
So I think, he's going to be somebody who will give Luke Shaw a run for his money in terms of who's starting in that position. Martinez and Varane were quality the other night. So Maguire's obviously, out of the sort of starting lineup at this moment in time. So that's obviously good competition in there. We've got Casemiro, Fred, McTominay, Eriksen, all fighting for them positions in the midfield. So it's good, and I think obviously healthy competition is what you need in a squad. You see it at all the top clubs. You've got 2 or 3 players in every position who are all worthy of a starting shirt. And I think over the course of the last couple of seasons, we've not had that, and a few players have sort of got in a comfort zone where they know they're going to be playing regardless of performances, and that's probably why we've not seen the best out of some of these players, because when you rest on your laurels and you think you're just going to be playing regardless of, your performances and your work rate and stuff like that, then you can fall into a sort of false sense of security. And I think now that we're sort of in a bit better place with more depth in the squad and a bit more quality, I think we'll start to see a little bit more on a regular basis, because everyone will be wanting to start games, everyone will be wanting to play. And this manager's not going to be somebody who will continue to pick somebody just based on reputations and names. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I'm glad that it's worked out like that.
Yeah, and I think that's where you need to see kind of more rotation, more strength and depth. And I think you're right about the number 9 situation. Even if Ronaldo stays, like, let's say all things considered, Mendes doesn't find a resolution for him between now and Thursday, we still need a number 9. I think that's integral, because as you said, like you highlighted, Martial, you can't, like, I think in this Ten Hag system, like, he's perfect type of mold, the number 9 to be, Ten Hag starter. But like, if you look in reality, his injury record in the last 3 seasons, he's out for at least 2-3 months every season, at least. You also have to consider Ronaldo. Can he do Thursday, Sunday at the age of 38 this season? No, that's just the reality. He won't be able to do that. Then you have to look at Rashford. Is he naturally a number 9? No. Can he play there? Yes. Can you rely on him there for all season? Probably not. Then you look at it, then you're left with Elanga and Charlie McNeil. Like, that's where you are at number 9 in this squad. Now, I know you could look at maybe Fernandes. Can he play false 9? Can Eriksen play there? Look, we've seen Eriksen can play there. We've seen that Everton League against Brighton. Donny van de Beek, people are throwing his name about. I don't think he's good enough to play in the Premier League. Again, that's just my opinion. But I think that's where United need to strengthen, especially in these attacking areas. We need strength and depth. You also need quality. I think, like, look, at the end of the day, you can bring in player X, player Y, Z. You can bring all these players in, but you need quality with this depth. Because, like, if we want to get where we want to be, you need quality in them positions. You need players, who can make a difference, whether it's on the start or on the bench. So I think like with recruitment, I think this needs to be, very highlighted. It needs to be more spot on. And I think like this final couple of days, I know it's kind of panic buying at the minute. Like this should have been realistically done at the start of the summer. When Ten Hag was coming in to give him a chance to integrate a system in pre-season. Like ideally, this should have been done late June, early July. This should have been done, but as we know with this club, it's never like we never have it easy, do we? Like the last decade in terms of negotiating deals, it's never easy, and like it's always a last minute panic.
Yeah, no, it's never straightforward, as you say. But I think it is a massive position that sort of needs to be sort of looked at, because it's one of them. I think you've seen City and teams like that over the last couple of seasons. Play Kevin De Bruyne in a false nine position and stuff like that. But I don't think we're quite at that sort of level where we can get away with that on a regular basis. Not just in terms of the quality of players we've got compared to them, but I just don't think it's sustainable over a season. So if we can find a number 9 who's going to be, reliable and not going to be injury prone like your Marshalls and stuff, then that'd be a massive sort of position that I think will set the standards in good stead throughout the season. But yeah, again, it's one of them. You look around world football at the moment, and is there a number 9 that sort of jumps out at you straight away that would fit in that style of play that's available? I can't really think of any off the top of my head. I think we're linked with Anthony, but again, I don't think he's a number 9. He's more of a typical type player that we've got a lot of. Your Rashfords, your Sanchos, your Alangas. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. But again, if we can get somebody in who can do that, then that'd be great. And I think it'd be a sort of massive step forward in terms of getting us someone who can be reliable in that centre forward role.
Do you think Memphis Depay on a free could be a deal United could do, considering the lack of options we have in the depth in the squad?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that being banded around, and it's obviously somebody who we know didn't have the best time with us when he joined, but sort of went away and sort of flourished at other teams and looked a lot better and looked more of the player that we thought we was going to be signing. So you never say really bring players back, but I think he at this moment in time there isn't many players about, so he could be a potential option. We're just hoping if he does come back that he shows some of the form that he's shown. Some of these other clubs like Barcelona, who he's played for, and Lyon. So we're hoping, if he does come back, he can do that. But is he the person that's going to, change Man United into a very good team, into an amazing team? I'm not sure. But again, there's not very many options at this moment in time. So he could be somebody who comes in maybe as a short-term fix.
Yeah, I think, look, if you look at this season, you look what's available. I think Memphis could be a good stopgap for maybe 2-3 years as a squad option. Like, again, not an automatic starter, but someone who can play. Like, he can play up front, but also the thing about him is he's versatile as well, and he is very creative. So, there will be someone who could come in and definitely make an impact within the squad. And like as you said, like if the likes of Rashford or Sancho are stinking it out, you have Memphis there who can come in and give us something different. So it is something that that it could be actually a smart signing between now and the end of the window. But Wayne's just put it in here that the rumored start 11 is actually unchanged from Liverpool, which I'm not shocked because consider Martial is out. So the rumored 11 is De Gea in goal, Dalot, Varane, Martinez, Malacia, McTominay, Ericsson, Fernandes, Sancho, Elanga, Rashford. Let's just hypothetically say there, Phil, if that is a starting lineup, what would be your thoughts on the balance against a very physical team in Southampton?
Yeah, I think it's obviously one of them with obviously, when you play a game and you win, and it's obviously against Liverpool, and the way that the manner of the win, I think it's very hard to drop any of the players or bring anybody else into that next game, because you want to keep a winning team. You want to give the lads the opportunity to replicate that performance. So yeah, but it's going to be a different proposition, as we say. Southampton are a bit different to the way Liverpool play. So it's going to be, interesting to see how that actually pans out. I think the back four was brilliant the other day against Liverpool. They kept all the, goal threats quiet for majority of the game. And as you say, it's going to be a different sort of style of play maybe from Southampton today with Che Adams, a bit more of a physical battle. Somebody who's, they're going to maybe play a little bit more direct. So yeah, it's going to be a different proposition, but I think we're more than up to the task. And I think if we concentrate on ourselves and we play the way we did, and everybody works hard, we've got more than enough quality to sort of win that game. And as I say, I would have liked to have seen Casemiro come in and maybe get his first start for the club, but it is difficult. And as a manager myself now, you try to keep a winning team and give that lads the opportunity to sort of carry on when they're doing well. I'm sure we will see him at some point today in the game. We're hoping we've maybe got a comfortable lead and we can bring him on and sort of ease him into the game and give him a nice sort of first game into the club. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I think it's going to be a case of how fast we start. If we can start fast, get an early goal, sort of settle the crowd down a little bit, and just play the way we did the other day, off the ball, and get ourselves straight at it from the first minute, then I think we should be fine.
Yeah, and hopefully, look, if it is the team, now I've actually just seen on Twitter that the rumor team is going to be incorrect. That isn't going to be the 11 now. Let's just say, obviously, look, we have seen that teams can be leaked and then they might be wrong. Now, look, in the case that it is the team, then look, hopefully McTominay, Ericsson, and Fernandes can work the way they worked on Monday night, like with the ground they've covered. But me personally, I'd like to see Casemiro play from the start, whether it's beside McTominay or beside Ericsson and Fernandes. I think he's a world-class midfielder and he would be able to deal with Southampton's physical style. I think as well, it is going to be a different game of football. You have Che Adams in there. Look, the narrative that Jamie Carragher is trying to do with Martinez, I think completely false. Again, look, Jamie Carragher, I'm not going to go there, but he is in no position to slander centre halves when he's the king of own goals. But I'm just going to leave that there. But when you consider Southampton's skill sets, in terms of how direct they are, it's going to be a completely different game. I think for the likes of Dallo and Malacia, we will need them to be aggressive on the wing. We will positionally. I think they're going to have to be very disciplined, because I think when you look at the crossing ability that Southampton do have, they are very direct in that regard. I think the fullbacks will have to be switched on. I think with the likes of Sancho, Lanka, Rashford, they're not going to have as much. Let's say if that is the front three, they're not going to have as much space. So I think if it's Ericsson and Bruno or just one of them, they're going to have to take the impetus to create that space and create them pockets of opportunity for United today. So look, it'd be interesting to see when we do at 11:30 when the lineups do get announced and how Ten Hag is going to approach this game tactically, because again, this is a very different game to Monday night, and I don't think Southampton are going to be as bad as Liverpool were Monday. If I be honest, look, I know we were great, but I think there's parts of Liverpool's game where, especially in midfield, they really lacked any energy in there. I think Henderson and Milner were quite poor from what they usually are in terms of energy and tenacity. I look at, if you look at their front three, I think Salah wasn't as great as he was. Now, that's down to Malacia. I think Malacia didn't give him a sniff. Martinez didn't give any of them a sniff either, but it wasn't the typical Liverpool performance. So I think this team is still going to have to work really hard today and they'll earn their money this week. But Ten Hag spoke in his press conference yesterday, Phil, in terms of obviously the leadership group within United at the moment. Obviously, it looks like Harry Maguire may not start today. Again, for a second game in a row. It looks like he may go with Varane and Martinez, which means that Bruno is going to be captain again today. And one thing Ten Hag highlighted in his press conferences is that Bruno is actually a well-liked figure within the dressing room. He's one of the main leaders within the dressing room. When you consider, obviously, he was captain of Sporting Lisbon before, so he has that experience. But when you consider some of the on-field antics of Bruno Fernandes at some points, do you think maybe having the captain's armband may actually, help him thrive in this team and may, help enhance his performance? Maybe that extra responsibility can maybe, bring Bruno up a level.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've seen that. And obviously there's a lot of talk about when Ronaldo's been in the starting 11, we've not seen the best out of Bruno Fernandes, which I sort of agree with to a certain extent. But I think, when he has the captaincy, I think that just gives him that added extra responsibility. And I think Bruno Fernandes is a player where I think if he's on your team, he's great because he's, some of the stuff he does is like horrible. Opposition teams probably can't stand him because, he's on the floor a lot. He's always in the referee's ear. He's doing all these like things where you think, oh, God. But when you've got him on your team and obviously the ability he's got, we've seen, he was one of our best signings certainly in recent times with, the sort of stuff he was doing and the sort of goals and assists he was producing. He has gone off that a little bit in more recent times, but I think now, the other day, look back to what he was. Obviously, he's not scored or got an assist as yet this season, but I think we've definitely got more to come from him. And I think with him being the captain, I actually think he will thrive in that role because we've seen, he's a big game player on his day. He can produce. I think the way he's been brought up and sort of he is a winner. He does all them things because he wants to win the game of football. Like the other day when he's holding the ball, he's knowing, he wants to kill the game. He's trying to stop them from running back and trying to start the game quick. So, yeah, I think he's definitely going to flourish in the sort of maybe short term captaincy role, and especially with him, maybe being the main man, if you like, without Ronaldo being in the starting team. I think we will see the best out of him. Yeah.
I think it's a role that he can definitely thrive in. And if I look long term for captaincy, I think he should be the captain at this moment in time. Because, look, again, it's not against Harry Maguire, but if he's not in the team regularly, let's say if this is our partnership for Anna Martinez going forward, and Bruno is being that main leader in the dressing room, Bruno, like if we be honest, is probably more respected in the dressing room at this moment in time, then Bruno should be the captain of the football club. He has more captaincy experience than Harry Maguire as well. And if you look at Bruno's time since he came in January 2020, he's probably been our best player in that time frame. I know Pogba had that run as well in that time frame, that he was a good player. But I think Bruno has been United's most consistent figure in the last 2 years. So I think it's definitely a role that he can definitely thrive in. And as well, if Ronaldo gets sold and Bruno's the main man and everything's going through Bruno rather than him and Ronaldo taking up each other's space, I think if we get that best Bruno back, then having him as captain, Joe can only benefit the dressing room.
Yeah, and I think as well, just on that, I think it's a great sort of avenue to go down with maybe giving Bruno the captaincy, because just takes a little bit of pressure off Harry Maguire as well. And I think obviously with all the sort of criticism he's come under and all the spotlight being on him for the last couple of seasons with some of the mistakes and all this kind of stuff, I think having that pressure of being the captain of Manchester United has maybe got to Harry Maguire a little bit. And if that did get taken off him, maybe that would help him as well. And maybe, take that little bit of pressure off him and let him just concentrate on, playing his football when he does eventually get back into the side. I think that would be a good move from Ten Hag if that's the way he sort of, goes and gives it Bruno maybe on a long-term basis moving forward. And I think it'd suit all parties. As I say, I think Bruno would flourish in that role. And if Ronaldo moves on, he's back feeling as though he can be, the player that he was. And as I say, for Harry Maguire, we could maybe see a lot better performances from him when he's not having to sort of be under the microscope as much. And he can just concentrate on his, performance as a player rather than a player and a captain.
Yeah, I think the captaincy has weighed on him massively. It's definitely... Look, Harry Maguire didn't decide that he was going to be sold for £80 million. That was Leicester haggling United at the time. Let's be honest, he was in England international, English tax. That £80 million price tag came. He didn't decide to be bought for that amount of money. I think he actually had a great start at the football club, Maguire, for the first couple of months. Then he got the captaincy. Look, I think since then his performance has been very stop-start. I think 2021, he was fantastic. I argue if we had him in the Europa League final, we probably would have won. Considering how good Maguire was that season. But I think in the last 12 months, I think his role as a captain has been undermined. I think him himself, he's probably undermined himself as well. He hasn't helped himself. Harry Maguire as a captain, I think his demeanour has been very, hasn't been great. I think if you look at his performances on the pitch, they haven't been good either. And then when he's coming out for interviews last season saying, look, I'm only here because I'm supposed to be here. And though after the Liverpool game. I think that, for me, you could tell the captaincy was weighing on him then. I think the season got progressively worse for Harry Maguire then. I think when you look at that now, and he's out with the team now, Ten Hag's brought in a man he trusts, in Martinez. I think Maguire's time as captain, I think the writing is on the wall for him. I think you're absolutely right, Phil. If the captaincy got taken off Maguire and he had this sole laser vision in terms of, look, I'm just going to work on my football. I'm going to work on going back doing the basics, and I'm going to work just being on a good centre half again. Maybe that will help him. But I think sometimes the captaincy can be too big for some players. Maybe he doesn't have the personality to be a captain. But that's okay. Not everyone is a captain, but maybe that the captaincy maybe was a step too far.
Yeah, definitely agree with that totally. I think it's a massive responsibility being a captain of any club, but especially Manchester United, when you've got millions of people, all over the world scrutinising every little thing that you do and performances, and obviously the club's not been nowhere near to the levels that we know it can be in previous years. So it's been a difficult time to be a captain of Man United. And I think, as you said then, I think, certain players have the characteristics to deal with that and, be able to rise to the occasion and sort of deal with all the sort of things that come with being the Man United captain. I think Maguire, as you say, I'm not saying he's not a captain or he's, not a good captain, but I just feel as though because of everything that's happened and the way sort of the club is at the moment and his performance levels haven't been great, I think it's probably just weighed too much on him and that has started to affect him. So yeah, it probably was a good time to sort of switch that up and, give it to somebody else and let him just concentrate solely on his football and hopefully that'll, get him back to the level that we know he can play at, and, it'll give him less sort of pressure to sort of, deal with, and he can just solely concentrate on getting himself as fit and as hungry as ever to be playing and starting in the team.
Yeah, it's one of them. I think it needs to happen. But I think Ten Hag done the right thing at the start of the summer, though, in terms of not changing too much. I think the captaincy at the start of the summer probably wasn't as big as an issue as certain other issues like midfield, getting the style of play implemented and just getting the harmony back in the dressing room. I think what'll probably happen, and this was said to me actually a couple of weeks ago, is that Maguire is going to be phased out of the captaincy. It's probably going to happen gradually this season. And the more as time is going on, it looks like that's probably going to be the case. Similarly to when Ashley Young was captain, he wasn't playing every week, and then eventually he was phased out as the captain. Then obviously he left a month later. After that, I think that's probably going to happen with Maguire. I'm not saying he'll leave, but I think he may be just phased out of the captaincy role. But as the Ten Hag did say in the presser yesterday, that he is part of that leadership group. He might be good. He might be a decent leader in the dressing room, a good character in the dressing room. But in terms of being the leader, the main man, probably isn't for him.
Yeah. No, as I say, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not saying Harry Maguire is not a good captain and he's not, a big influence in the dressing room. I just think, being the actual captain and everything that comes with it, on a match day and, in the press and on social media, whether that has just sort of got too much for him and it just needs to be switched up and give someone else that he can still do his, stuff behind the scenes and in the changing room and still be part of that captaincy group and, leading by example. But I just think it's a right decision at this moment in time to sort of switch that and give it to somebody else. And I think it would definitely benefit all parties.
Yeah, I think it benefit all parties. And I think for him mentally, it's probably not it would help. It would help him just concentrate in his own game and just get back to basics. I think that's what he just needs to do. So I think he's overcomplicating his own game even at times as well. But obviously lineups are going to be out in 13 minutes. Just on yourself, obviously, look, usually at this stage of the show, we would go predicted lineups and we would kind of go our score predictions. And we're actually going to leave that for the next couple of minutes because there's no point just predicting lineup and 13 minutes later it's going to come out. So we're not going to have egg on our faces live on air because the usual, I always go with a different lineup and it never comes off. So I'm not going to have that happen live on air. But Phil, obviously, we'll talk about transfers just obviously for the next couple of minutes. And we mentioned Anthony potentially coming in. The situation with Ajax at the moment. Looks like they keep increasing the fee, and Anthony himself is very unhappy at the football club there at the moment. Looks like they've almost lied to him this summer in terms of you can go because originally the fee was 60 million. You can go. United bid that, they reject. The bids are going up, and we're nearly at the point of United bidding 100 million, and Ajax keep rejecting this bid. Do you think the fact that, like with Eric Ten Hag, obviously we took Eric Ten Hag from Ajax, we've also taken Martinez now from Ajax. Do you think United have almost kind of annoyed that football club at the moment? The fact we've taken the manager, we've taken their best centre half, and now we're taking their best attacker. Do you think Ajax are getting quite annoyed at Man United, and it seems to be a case of like they're giving us the proverbial, F off, basically? Is that like, do you think that's what they're doing at the moment?
Yeah, possibly. I think, we have obviously done a raid on Ajax, and I think at this moment in time, they're just seeing it as, Man United are in a desperate situation to try and bring players into the club. They know that we're really keen on bringing Anthony into the club, and I think that's why they're just sitting there thinking, well, we can keep upping it until, the days start ticking down. The club are desperate to sign him and bring him in as extra cover in them attacking positions. So they're probably just chancing their arm to see how much money they can get out of the club, which is, typical, because Man United always end up paying over the odds for the majority of the signings they make. But yeah, I mean, it's one of them. We do need another player to come through the door in them attacking positions. We said it obviously would be ideally a number 9 for me. But yeah, whether that deal gets done is yet to be seen. Hopefully we can get him in, and that'll strengthen us again in that position. But yeah, Ajax are just playing the game at the minute. I think obviously they know the score with where we are, and yeah, I think it wouldn't probably be obscene of them to even reject the 100 million, because they know how desperate we are to sign him, and it may even go higher than that, which is obscene to think. But
It's madness, Phil. I find that it's crazy that we're bidding 100 million for Anthony. Now, I know it's probably mostly Ten Hag wants us to keep going because obviously he knows Anthony, he trusts him, he had him at Ajax, and like Anthony played quite well for him. I'm looking at the 100 million price tag, and I'm like, is he going to be much better than Sancho on the right or Rashford on the left? That's the question I have of him, because we've seen players come from Eredivisie and they've struggled initially. They'll come from there. Obviously, now you've other players come from Eredivisie, like Luis Suarez, who came to the Premier League and lit it up straight away. Is Anthony of that quality? I don't know. I think you look at the Eredivisie the attacking players and midfield players, they don't generally come to the Premier League and light it up straight away. Sometimes it takes some time to adjust. My fear is if Anthony comes for 100 million, like he has to come into the side straight away for 100 million pounds. He has to be in the lineup. And what my opinion is he much better than what we have in Sancho and Rashford? And that's my problem with the signing at the moment.
I think that's a big problem with a lot of players at this moment in time. These fees become it's 100 million, it's 80 million, it's 120, and people just instantly expect this player to be a ready-made player to come into the team and start hit the ground running and be unbelievable. Which it's not attainable for that to happen with these types of players, because the Premier League's a completely different game to majority of these leagues all around the world. It's stronger, it's faster, the quality's a lot better, and it does take time for these players to adjust and to try and find the feet. We've seen this with like Sancho and players like that who we was expecting to come straight in and absolutely tear it up, and he struggled for large parts. He's shown glimpses, and obviously he's been a lot better in more recent times, but it's took him a long time to sort of find his feet. And when you're paying such large amounts of money, you can't not want instant success because it's that much money. But again, that'll pile pressure on the player if he's not going to be playing straight away, if he's not going to be playing well. Fans are going to start getting on his back, which we don't want. But it's just a natural sort of process when the club's playing so much money. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that one pans out. But again, I do like the player. I've not seen loads of him, but what I have seen, I do like what I've seen, and I think he is a good player, and I think he could be somebody who would definitely add something different and give us that little bit of flair that we've maybe been missing. But yeah, it's just crazy the amounts of money that are getting banded around for just not, I wouldn't say average players, but just players that aren't sort of proven.
They're not at the world class level yet. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He's a great player. He's got massive potential, but 100 million. You're expecting somebody to come in who's going to be, getting you 15, 20 goals a season and probably the same amount of assists. But this day and age, because of how ridiculous the money situation has gone, you buy in them kind of players and sometimes they won't even be starting for a while. They'll be in and out of the team. They're not, performing to the level you think. And it's crazy. It's just crazy. But yeah.
it's just the market the way it is now. I think that Neymar transfer obviously just inflated the market massively. Even Ronaldo going for, like, imagine back when Ronaldo left the football club for Real Madrid at 80 million. You would have said, a decade later, we were signing a centre back from Leicester City for that same price. And it just shows kind of how inflated the market is. Like, I look how the market is now, and I look at what some of these players are going for, and I'm just imagining, like, what would Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, players like that would go for, Rio Village, Yap Stam. What would these players go for nowadays? Like, it just shows how inflation has kind of really, I suppose, really ruined the market at this point.
Yeah, no, it's bonkers, as you say there. You mentioned some of them players who, was 8, 9 out of 10 on a weekly basis, and you knew exactly what you was going to get from them. You wouldn't begrudge paying 150 million for them kind of players because, they're going to come straight into your team and you know exactly what you're going to get. Whereas this day and age, with some of these players, we've seen glimpses, we've seen them do it in, the Dutch league or the French league or wherever. But as soon as they come to the Premier League, it's a different kettle of fish. This is the best league in the world. This is the best players in the world. It's not going to be instant success on the majority of these players because it's just a completely different game. So yeah, it's obscene. But as you say, it's just the way it is now. Football's gone crazy with the financial stuff since certain transfers were made, and again, it just adds more pressure on the player and more pressure on the club to sort of have to justify paying it. But again, it's not their fault. They're just, a player at the end of the day. They just want to come and play and do the best. But I think it's everything else that comes with it is why, some of these players do end up, not fulfilling the potential or not hitting the ground running as quickly as they would do because amount of pressure, the price tag is getting banded around, and as soon as they do anything wrong, it's like, how can you justify paying so much money when he's doing this kind of thing? And it's just absolutely crazy and mind blowing how much the game's changed. But yeah, we're hoping that we can get some players in from now until the end of the transfer window that can give us that extra little bit of quality and give us that depth. And hopefully we can continue in the same vein as we did against Liverpool and them performance levels. Obviously, we want them to stay as consistent as we can. But the key thing for me is, that work rate and tenacity the other day and the way that, they just shown that desire to want to try and win a game of football. That needs to sort of stay. And the bar has been set. And I think everybody needs to, sort of try and hit that as many times as we can throughout the season now, because, as I say, every game's going to be difficult, whether it's in the Premier League, the Europa League, whatever it is. If you're not at it, then we'll end up getting beat because we're not good enough to have 4 or 5 players who are 9, 8 out of 10, and the rest like 4 or 5 because we're not at that place anymore.
We don't have that quality to do that. Like, especially like I look at Man City. I always say this when I allude to these teams, but I look at Man City. I look at maybe not so much Liverpool now, but if you look at the teams like Man City, Bayern Munich, you look at them top teams in Europe right now. They have like the midfield players, like let's say dictate the play, but their strikers mightn't be at it, but their midfield are that good, their defense is that good. That they'll still pull out result even with some players. So are almost passengers on the day. I think that we're not at that point yet where we can afford to have passengers. We need 9. We need at least 8, 9 players all playing well.
Yeah.
And all having 8, 9 out of 10. We can't afford to have passengers. We're not at that point yet.
No, that's exactly what I was trying to sort of allude to. And I think it's one of them with us at the moment. I think the fans are at a stage now where they can live with players not playing well. They can live with, them, having a bit of an off day in front of goal, or, making a mistake or whatever it may be, a couple of bad passes. But what they can't accept is, 9, 10 players not running the socks off, not putting a full shift in for 90 minutes, not, fighting and sort of wanting to win every single ball, because that should be a given for any level of football. Like, we're talking about Premier League football here, but any level of football, you need to work hard. You need to put a shift in. You need to try and win your individual battle. And if you get more players that are doing that, then you've got a miles better chance of winning that game of football. And obviously, with the quality we've got on our day in the squad, if that all comes together, then like it did the other day, it's great to watch. It's great to see. Everyone's happy, playing with a smile on your face, which is something we've not seen for a long time as well with certain players. If you're enjoying your football and you're playing with a smile on your face, there's nothing better. So yeah, that's a big part of it as well. We need to just sort of get that feel good factor back, and get the fans on board, make sure all the players are enjoying it, and the only way that's going to happen is by the players making sure that they at least work hard on a weekly basis.
That's the bare minimum. That's the bare requirement. You need to be a Man United player. You always need to work hard. And look, one thing we always recognise is if they're working hard, we won't give them a hard time over it. If they're putting in 100%, if you get beat by the better team, that's fair enough. We can accept. Well, I probably won't accept that if it's against Liverpool, because again, it's Liverpool. But like, if we see that the players are doing the minimum, they are working hard, they are showing desire, commitment, then look, us as fans, we won't feel as bad compared to like if they're down in tools. But guys, we are a couple of seconds away from the team lineups being announced, and so look, let's see who is starting for Manchester United here today against Southampton. Yeah, we'll see now just in a couple of moments who is in the 11 for us today. So I was going to refresh my Twitter here, guys, and we'll get the lineups up here for you now. If you just bear with me a moment. United should tweet their team out any second. Here we go. So it looks like it is actually the same 11 as Liverpool game. So it looks like it is De Gea, Diogo Dalot, Varane, Martinez, where are we now? Martinez, Malacia, and then you have McTominay, Ericsson, Bruno Fernandes, and then Sancho, Elanga, Rashford. So it looks like it is the same 11. So there was conflicting reports on whether it was the same 11 or it wasn't. So it looks like it is the same 11. Looks like we're gone with that 4-3-3 again. With McTominay is the holder. Then you have Ericsson, box to box, Bruno, Moore is the number 10, and then you have the front three, fluid front three of Sancho, Elanga, and Marcus Rashford. Phil, just on the lineup, looks like Ten Hag has gone unchanged. Looks like Ten Hag is happy with the performance on Monday night, and looks like he's given his blessing to the players to be that same 11 again. What's your immediate reaction to seeing that lineup here today against Southampton, and consequently Casemiro being on the bench?
Yeah, as I said, you can't blame him. After that performance the other day, I think it was one of our best performances I've seen in a long, long time. So giving them players again the opportunity to go out and replicate that and sort of get a bit of continuity with finding each other, in terms of the little partnerships and relationships is going to be good. I would have obviously liked to have seen Casemiro myself personally, but you can't blame him, as I said, for keeping that the same. I think we will see him at some point today. As I said, if we can get off to a good start, fast start, get maybe a goal up and, see that into the second half and then maybe get another one and bring him on, that'd be an ideal situation for him to sort of, come into the team and make his debut. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. As I say, Southampton are a difficult proposition. They're going to be different to Liverpool the other day. We just need to make sure we do all them fundamentals right. What we said about, fast start, making sure you work hard, making sure you do all the basics and, you win your individual battles. And then we've got obviously far more quality if all our players are on top form to win that game of football. But we need to definitely back it up with the 3 points today, which is going to be so typical of Man United today if we don't back this up with the 3 points after such a good result against Liverpool. But hopefully we've turned the corner, and the players felt how good that result felt the other day and want to try and keep replicating that now on a weekly basis, and we just move forward and see where it takes us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, having that bit of continuity can't be a bad thing in terms of starting lineup. Look, ideally, we would like Casemiro to start, but again, he's only been training a week. I think Ten Hag might be a bit sensible, maybe given that lineup and another chance to succeed. And hopefully it is something that that can get us a result today. Hopefully we can kick on. Hopefully it's not like a previous occasion. So we've got a big win and then all of a sudden, we falter and we're back to square one. It's one step forward and 2 steps back. Hopefully it's not that situation again. But yeah, look, it's one of them. We'll see how we get on today, but we will get to our favorite part of the show today, which is score predictions. So last week, Keane was the one who said Man United would win the game. Now, I did say 1-0, so I didn't get the score right, but I did predict the win. So myself and Phil have agreed this morning with our tables and how this is going to go is that we're going to do our score predictions every week like a Super 6. So anyone who knows Super 6, the predictions every week, you can, when you get your prediction right in terms of score prediction, you get 5 points. If you get the result right, you get 2 points. Obviously, if you don't get the result right or score right, it's 0. So Lee didn't get the score prediction in for us last week, so Lee's on 0. Myself and Phil got put our score predictions in. I got the prediction of the result right. Phil got a draw. So I'm on 2 points. Phil's on 0. Lee's on 0. So we did get Lee's prediction in for the game today. Lee was quite drunk when he sent us the prediction, but we're taking his prediction. He said 9-0, and he said in the message, I have it screenshot, he said United to win 9-0 today. So Lee's prediction of United win 9-0, I'm keeping that there. Me and Phil have agreed. That's unanimous. That's been kept. So we will get our score predictions, and I will put them up on the screen here as well. So Lee has 9-0 there. Phil, give us your score prediction for today's game.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1. I don't think obviously 9-0 is going to be the result by any stretch. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think Southampton, as I say, will be a different proposition, but I hope we've got just enough to get us over the line and get the 3 points. I think, with the confidence of the other day, we're going to start fast and try and get a goal up early. I do feel as though Southampton will have a couple of chances and may score off a set piece, which is why I've said
Ward-Prowse.
yeah. They've always got that sort of player who can do something like that. He's such a good technical player. He can score and put great balls into the box. But I think we will win in the second half. So that's why I'm going for 2-1. I'm going to go for Rashford and Bruno as the goal scorers.
So Phil has gone 2-1, Rashford, Bruno goal scorers, and Southampton set piece for their goal. We haven't kept a clean sheet all season. I said last week we'd keep one. I don't know what I was thinking that day because we always do concede goals. But I'm still on that air positivity, probably because I'm wearing 1990 Ireland jersey here today. I'm going to go a bit of positivity. I'm going to go 2-0 United. So I'm going to go just to keep a clean sheet today and get the result. Do you know what, though? I'll actually go to the same goal scorers as Phil as well. I think Rashford will get one. I think Bruno will bag today as well. And I'm going to say Bruno from the penalty spot today. Hopefully that curse breaks. He's after missing his last 2 penalties, and I'd love to see Bruno just get back on. Like the way Bruno's winding everyone up recently, I think him scoring a penalty and going back to that would wind everyone up even more. And he said something else there. I think that would wind everyone up even more tenfold if Bruno done that this week. So I'm going to go Bruno, but I'm going to go the extra. I'm going to go Bruno from the penalty spot. I think that would be more tears on social media with that one. So I have the predictions up there. So we've Lee Lawrence has gone with 9-0. Phil's gone with 2-1, and I've got I've gone with 2-0. So, guys in the comments on Facebook or YouTube, do let us know what your score prediction is for today's game. And look, we will obviously come back to these score predictions on Friday's podcast, where we'll reviewing the game, we'll reviewing obviously next week's game and stuff like that. But we will obviously come to these score predictions as well and see who was right, who was wrong, and where the league table may be next week. So obviously I'm on 2 points, Phil's on 2 points. Phil's on 0 and Lee's on 0. But look, Phil trounced me and Lee last season with score predictions and results of games. So I'd say
still early days, yeah.
Still early days, yeah. I think Phil may come back. Phil is like Man United of old, where starts slow, but then by Christmas he's top of the league. So hopefully that's not the case. With the score predictions, hopefully for my sake, I'm top of the league. But look, we'll see what happens. But on that note, guys, we will wrap up there this morning. I hope you all have a good weekend. Hopefully United do get the 3 points. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we obviously will be back later on today with the match reaction. Mark will be hosting that one. I'll be on there as well. So don't forget to check that out after the game. And always, guys, let's hope United don't leave us down. Let's hope it's another positive result and we're all in good form for the rest of this weekend, because I know it's the early kickoff, and the early kickoff can ruin your weekend. Hopefully that's not the case. But until then, guys, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you later on.